Most people think estate agents are all the same. They'll just stick your home on Rightmove and wait for the phone to ring. But that is wrong. I've dealt with over 1,000 estate agents over the last 15 years, and I have learned they are not all the same. The best ones will help you sell your home faster and even for more money. But how do you find them? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the simple 3-step process I've refined over the years that you can use to reliably find the best local estate agent for your home. We're not going to use comparison sites because estate agent league tables, they just don't work. I'm a numbers guy. I would love it if they worked, but they just don't. So our way is simple, fast, free. All you need is Rightmove to get started. So let's jump into this video I recorded a while ago about one of the most important steps to selling your home, which is how to choose the best estate agent. So let's move on to this. Now, so how do we find that best estate agent, and not just the best estate agent in the area, but the agent who's going to be best for your property? Right, because the agent who's going to be best to sell, a 5-bed detached house near you is going to be very different from the agent. In most cases, it's going to be very different from the best agent to sell a 1-bed flat near you, right? And so we have a 3-step process that we go through when we choose agents. This is what I've kind of come to after doing this literally hundreds and hundreds of times. So the first thing that we will do is analyze the local market, and we're looking for market share. We want agents who are selling lots of similar properties nearby at the moment, and not just kind of got them listed, but ideally how many of them are they actually selling as well, right? And there's a really simple way that you can quickly get an idea on this. So let's go back to Rightmove a second, and we'll go to a new postcode. I was speaking with someone in this area recently. So let's imagine that was our postcode. And we had a 3-bed property to sell that was worth about 240. That was the case in this situation, right? So what I would do here when I'm scoping out the local market and looking for market share is I want to look maybe 10, 15, 20% cheaper and 10, 15, 20% higher. So let's go 200 to 270 because this was about 235, 240, right? So within a mile of us, in our price bracket, with the same number of bedrooms, there are 46 properties available. Now, what I would want to do next, and in fact, I would feel that that's a little bit high, so let's narrow it a little bit and look at 16. These are more specific. These are even closer to us, right? And so what I would want to do now is which agents got all these listings, and ideally which ones sold lots, because they're going to go right at the top of our shortlist. And this was such a nice example, because if we go through this, we see sold subject to contract by T-Pain & Co. Another one by T-Pain & Co. Another one by T-Pain & Co. Another one by T-Pain & Co. One by Hart. Another by T-Pain & Co. T-Pain & Co. T-Pain & Co. T-Pain & Co. Now, if you just looked generally on Rightmove, you might find that these guys had loads of listings, and these guys had loads of listings, and that Hart company had loads of, Sharman Quinney have loads of listings. Well, when you narrow it down and start looking at similar properties, like these are our competitors. If we were going to sell this property, these are our competitors of what we're up against. We've got an agent here who is selling lots of similar properties like ours nearby at the moment. Let's just go to them because they're going to have that rich database of buyers, and because they're going to have they're going to be doing viewings on these properties all the time, and they're going to have opportunities to cross-sell. Right, that's why this is so important, and that's kind of typically what I'm looking for. I want like maybe 15 to 30. I'm going to play around with these filters until I get maybe 15 to 30 listings. Like if I just do it within a quarter of a mile, and say 220 to 260, we end up with 3 results. It's not enough. It's not enough. We want to broaden it so we get numbers, but not so broad that we start looking at like random houses that are nothing like ours. And so once we've done that and we've got an idea of market share, and we've got maybe 2 or 3 agents shortlisted, and they don't have to just have sold loads. Like these guys have got listings. We saw when we were before. We saw you'll see. Normally there'll be one agent who has like 20% market share. There'll be a couple of others who are like maybe have 10, 12, 15% market share, like that kind of thing. There'll be 2 or 3 main ones. For me, they go right at the top of the shortlist, right? I will then refine the shortlist. We'll prioritize the shortlist based on number of listings and like the proportion that they're selling. But next, what we'll do, step 2, is we look at similar properties, so very similar, very nearby, very recently. And going back to this example that we had a second ago, there's a good chance that because this agent sold so many properties nearby, that they will have buyers who have narrowly missed out on something really similar, or who liked it but it wasn't quite perfect for them, but as might be, right? They might have really hot viewings that are ready to come in straight away, and those can sometimes come right at the start of the process, and they can be the very best ones. So I would now reshuffle our shortlist of maybe 2, 3, 4 agents. I would reshuffle it based on very similar properties. And like what I mean by this, you know, a terrace in the same row of terraces, or a flat in the same block of flats, a detached house on the same cul-de-sac, or something like that. If there was one, I would want to go to that agent and prioritize them as well. And now the third step is we will speak with these agents, and we're basically going to interview them for the instruction. They're not going to kind of know we're interviewing them, but in our mind, that's what we're doing. And specifically when I speak with them, all of these agents are going to have a nice glossy sales pitch, because that's what they do. That's why it's literally their job. They got to that position in the company because they're good at just sounding smooth and signing people up with things. But I'm looking for 3 things, right? We call these like 3 E's. So first is ease of contact. If you can't get hold of an agent to give them business, then, which is literally the point of the agent, like at the front end, is just to bring in customers, right? If you can't get hold of them to try and give them business, then there's a good chance buyers won't be able to get hold of them to book viewings and things like that, right? And buyers have loads of choice, like we've just seen. And so if the agent doesn't go back to them and book viewings on things, like they will view other stuff and they may move on and you lose them. The ease of contact is something that's so simple. It's so easy to check, but it says so much about how the company is run, right? If you're leaving 2 or 3 voicemails and people aren't calling you back by the end of the day, like, it's a problem. So that's the first thing we're looking for, is ease of contact. Second is expertise. So when you speak with the valuation manager, I would want to hear useful stuff. Like, tell me about similar properties nearby that you've sold recently. How long did they take to sell? What did they sell for? How many viewings did you get? How many offers did they get? What were the other offers? Right? They should be able to anchor your property to that and say, well, you know, that one performed like that. Yours by the sounds of it is a bit bigger. It sounds nicer inside. I'd hope it would sell faster or for a higher price. Like, it should be useful. They should be able to give you actual insight. You shouldn't just hear generic stuff like the market's really difficult at the moment, or the market's really good at the moment, or interest rates are going to come down, or, you know, it's nearly Christmas, so it's quiet, or, you know, it's the election soon. So, like, none of that stuff, like specific, like, show me actual expertise, not just glossy kind of nonsense, basically. And then the third thing, it's like we say, kind of energy or excitement or enthusiasm or something. What we've tended to find is the agents who will do the best job seem to like their job, right? And that tends to come across on the phone. If you have someone who, it feels like it's effort to speak with you, like, they're maybe not the one. Those are just 3 things that we can kind of check for. Now, when we've got this short list of agents, right, they're going to come out to the property, they're going to give you valuations and things, and we'll talk about valuations in a minute. But once you've had those valuations, the next thing that we want to do is tick off agent selection, because we've just made our shortlist. We know how to identify agents who are going to be super relevant for us, and we know how to kind of screen them and pick who we think are the best ones. Next. Really hope you found that useful. If you want to see the rest of this workshop, there are 4 other things I cover there. I give it away for free. The link's in the description below. Now, if you are in the process of choosing your estate agent, they are usually the single biggest cost when it comes to selling your house. A good agent is absolutely value for money, but they are still expensive. So watch this next video where I share the approach and the exact script I've used to save, no joke, hundreds of thousands of pounds in estate agent fees over the years. Simple process. Anyone can do it. It's all free right here. So take a look, should save you some money.